Good evening. Let us make this a quiet hour. Not a lecture to collect ideas, but an interval in which we let the inner room grow still enough that something already present can be recognized. Do not hurry. Do not try to remember what to take home. If you can be here, truly here, home will recognize you. For some of you, this will be a first glimpse that God is not a goal at the end of a long road, not a peak you must climb to reach, but a presence that abides here, without moving and without diminishing. For others, this will be a release from years of noble strain, good, sincere effort that yet kept you circling outside the gate. And for still others, there will be the simple, seismic discovery that the very word I, when silently declared within, is an altar you have been walking past on your way to altars made with hands. Now, if you can bear a plain sentence, let it rearrange you. If you are trying to reach God, you have already walked past Him. The motion of reaching carries an assumption, distance, and that assumption blinds the eye to what is here. God is not at the end of your stretching. God is at the center of your being. Every outward step, however pious, overlooks the doorway that does not move. And here is the paradox that has held us captive. We say and sing and teach that God is omnipresent, everywhere, always. And then we live as if God were somewhere else, always just beyond our present condition, beyond our present lack, beyond our present fear. The question that matters tonight is not, how do I get there? The question is, why am I not aware of here? If God is truly here, then awakening is not a journey, but a recognition. It is the difference between groping for a light switch and discovering the sun has been up for hours. Before we go further, I must say what I always say, and I say it so you will not look to me or to any human arrangement for what is only given of God. There is no membership to this work. No one can join it, and no one can be joined to it by papers, pledges, or dues. We have no organization that can deliver God to you. The only bond we share is a spiritual bond, and it is inward. If you unite within, in that most sacred place where I and the Father are one. So let us be very gentle now. Do not reach. Consent. Consent to be where you already are. Just silently, within yourself, let the word I arise. Not the story about I, not the name, not the history, but the bare I that is aware of being. Rest there a moment. In that stillness, you are closer to God than all your years of walking toward a horizon that never arrives. And if you will hold to this, quietly, faithfully, you will find the road that was wearing out your feet dissolves under a presence that is carrying you. Now let us look squarely, kindly, at this feeling of distance that so many of you report, even after a moment of quiet. Do not be ashamed of it. Good people carry it. Sincere people. For some, it shows itself as an ache that flares in the night and is covered by busyness in the day. For others, it is a noble strain in prayer, a pushing, a pleading, a bargaining. For still others, it comes as technique, hours of affirmations, postures, formulas, each one a step on a stairway that somehow climbs without arriving. The reason is this. Striving is a confession. Every time you try to get God, you whisper to yourself that God is not here. And that whisper becomes a veil across the very presence you seek. Now, if you will be very honest with yourself, you will see how easily we turn God into an object, a goal to be reached, a state to be earned, a reward for virtue, for good behavior, for religious punctuality. And then we wonder why the chase never ends. How could it end? As long as God is a thing outside, the runner and the prize are kept apart by the belief that makes the race. Even an anxious prayer can be the fuel of separation. If in that prayer you imagine a God out there who must be convinced to look here. You do not persuade the sun to rise by ringing the bell more loudly. And so we try substitutes to ease the pressure. We make the longed-for purchase, a car, a diamond, a new instrument, and for a few days the shine distracts the heart. Then the luster fades, the object asks for polish and payment, and the ache that was never for a thing returns. We lean the whole weight of our soul on romance, and discover that no human shoulder, however loving, can carry divinity's burden for us. We keep up with the morning paper and the nightly broadcast, and tell ourselves we are being responsible citizens, and all the while our peace drains away under 1,000 reports of fear. The world calls it being informed, but the payment is a worried mind. And yes, we throw ourselves into religious activity, committee meetings, fund drives, incense and ritual, hoping that proximity to holy things will do what only inner union can do. These may be good in their place, but none can join you to God. They can only remind you to turn where union is. Therefore, let us adjust the diagnosis. The distance is not between you and God. The distance is between your attention and your own source. When attention runs out to objects, to outcomes, to tomorrow's headlines or yesterday's bruises, it leaves the altar within unattended. And an unattended altar looks like an absent God. But when attention consents to return, no reaching, no arguing, just a quiet yielding, you find you have not moved into presence. Presence has been the ground of your being all along. Striving keeps the story of two alive. Receptivity lets the truth of one be felt. And as that truth is felt, the ache begins to know its real name, which is desire for God. And desire for God is fulfilled not by motion, but by recognition. Now, if you can just visualize for a moment, quietly, a great tree. Do not rush it. See the trunk rising, the limbs extending, the leafing of 1,000 small hands into the air. Beneath, an unseen world, roots threading out into soil, drinking rain stored in the dark, touching minerals, drawing the life of the earth and the gifts of the heavens. This is a living system, one life moving through many forms. Now look at a single branch. Does it reach? Does it strain to get to the trunk? No, it abides. Its life is the life of the tree, and that life enters it not as a wage paid for effort, but as a flow that was established before the leaf first opened. Sever that branch, and for a day you may be fooled. It may lie there with a little gloss left on the leaves, a little bend in the twig, a hint of green in the cambium. But time will tell the truth. The gloss dulls, the leaf curls, the twig snaps dry. Was it punished? No. It was cut off from its root. Supply did not stop because the tree was angry. Supply ceased because the mechanism of receiving was broken. Life moves by union. It does not consult the calendar. It does not negotiate with anxiety. It flows where there is oneness. Now translate this into the life you are living from morning to night. When you take yourself to be a separate me, this name, this history, this bundle of fears, trying to reach a distant God, You have placed yourself in the position of a cut-off branch. For a while you may appear fresh. You will manage and worry and plan and plead. You will take extra jobs, shuffle accounts, rehearse conversations, bargain in prayer, and exhaust yourself with cleverness. And there will be moments when the leaves seem to hold. Some money appears, a report improves, a friend calls, and you say, "There, I have supply." But the ache returns, because all this was the survival sparkle of a branch not drinking from its root. The law is simple. Separate yourself in belief, and you must live on your own sap. Unite in consciousness, and the infinite life of the vine bears you. When the Master said, "I am the vine, ye are the branches," he did not offer a creed. He described a fact. When he said, "I and the Father are one," he gave you the location of your source. And when he taught, "Without me ye can do nothing," it was not a moral scolding, but the plain mechanics of life. The vine is where supply enters. The sap, call it wisdom, guidance, love, intelligence, health, peace, provision, moves by law into every twig that abides. You do not earn sap. You allow sap. You do not persuade the tree to be generous. You consent to be connected. Where, then, is your point of connection? Not your personality, not your resume, not your body, not your yesterday or your tomorrow. The graft point is the inner eye that is before these things, the eye that knows it is, even before it has a name to say so. When attention rests there, when it stops reaching past itself to grasp at objects, you discover union as an immediate fact, and life begins to show the signs of being rooted. Quiet sufficiency, answers arriving without strain, doors that open without pounding, a peace that is not hostage to headlines. For some, this will appear first as financial ease, for others as healing in the body, for still others as guidance that ends confusion. Do not make a project of it. Abide. Let the picture of the branch be your gentlest guardrail. Storms will come, seasons will turn, leaves will fall and return, but the root does not abandon the branch that abides. And as you abide in this inner oneness, you will see for yourself that supply does not arrive from outside to inside. It arises from within to without, as fruit appears on a living limb, without hurry, without self-importance, and without fear. Now we must come to the little word we have been using since childhood, the word that opens and shuts the whole of our experience without our noticing it. Everyone says it 100 times a day. Everyone passes by its doorway. Few enter. I. For some, when you say I, you immediately gather your name, your job, your family story. You clothe yourself in yesterday and tomorrow and call that bundle I. For others, I carries a bruise, your failures, your fears, your labels. For still others, I is a stage for pride or shame, a spotlight under which you perform or hide. But there is an I that precedes all this. There is an I before the adjective, before the memory, before the plan. That I is not made. It is. It is the awareness that knows your thoughts come and go, your feelings rise and fall, your roles change with the seasons, and yet something in you remains, quietly the same. Before Abraham was, I am. Not a sentence of grammar, an unveiling of identity. Now listen closely. At the center of your being, deeper than personality, deeper than success or failure, deeper than health or illness, is the I that is one with God. Not like God, not near God, one with God. I and the Father are one. That is not a doctrine to be studied. It is a location to be recognized. Every attempt to find God outside that center becomes spiritual wandering. You may cover many miles of church steps. You may accumulate many beautiful ideas. You may perfect many religious habits, and still the heart will say, "Somehow I have missed the place." The place is not out there. The place is where I is felt before it is described. And so we must learn the difference between thinking about God and recognizing presence. Thinking, even reverent thinking, is movement. It reaches, compares, arranges, and in all that motion, it keeps alive the suggestion of distance. Recognition is stillness. It does not push toward, it notices what already is. Thinking says, I will become spiritual. Recognition says, I am. Thinking says, I will attain peace. Recognition says, I am. Thinking says, I will reach God. Recognition says, I am. Not I will become. Not I will attain. I am. And in that amness, presence is. Therefore, when you hear me use the word I in this work, do not fasten it to the little self that comes and goes with the weather of circumstance. Let it refer to the graft point we have spoken of, the place where the sap of the vine enters the branch. When you say I within, without ornament, without story, you are standing at the threshold of union. You are not creating it. You are ceasing to deny it. In a few minutes, we will move from words to a quiet experiment, because this cannot be proved by argument. It must be felt in the secret place of your own being. For now, be willing. Be willing to let I mean what it meant before you dressed it in titles and troubles. Be willing to let the mind grow still enough to hear the tone of that ancient present tense. Do not strain. Do not reach. Consent to stand at the door you have been walking past, and know that in the very knowing, the door is already open. Now let us do the one thing that words cannot do for you. Let us be still and make the inner contact. Just silently within yourself, not aloud, not for effect, not to impress your neighbor or even to impress yourself. Just within. Think the word I. Declare it gently. Do not push it. Do not decorate it. Let it be as soft and simple as noticing your own breath. I. And stop there. Do not go on to say, I am sick. Do not go on to say, I am afraid. Do not go on to say, I am unworthy. I am busy. I am behind. I am trying. Stop at I. Let the rest fall off like coats you do not need in this room. I. And stop there. Now notice, without scolding, without surprise, how quickly the mind runs to attach a label, to tack on yesterday's story, to borrow tomorrow's anxiety. That is its habit. That is the human record doing what it has been trained to do, stacking adjectives upon that little word until the truth of it is hidden under headlines. Let the labels be what they are, the tales of time. The pure I is before the tale. It is the awareness to which the tale appears and from which it disappears. It is not the weather. It is the sky. Again. Just silently within. I. Not the name, not the role, not the condition. I. and feel, if you can, the bare fact of being that does not need a reason to be. This I is the point of union. This I is where the Father is. This I is where presence is. Not because you have said so loudly, not because you have earned it with effort, but because it is the nature of I to be one and never two. Let there be a hush here. No proving, no testing, no waiting for fireworks. If you feel nothing at all, do not turn that into a verdict. If you feel the faintest loosening, like a muscle unclenching, that is already communion. If you feel a quiet sweetness, be grateful, but do not chase it. If you feel only stillness, that is the door opening by its own law. The door does not open to pushing. It opens when you arrive and stop reaching past yourself. When the next thought comes, and it will, do not wrestle. Let it pass. Return gently to I. Each return is not starting over. Each return is deepening the groove of recognition. Each time you stop at I, you refuse to sign the old contract of separation, and the branch remembers the vine. In this way, without strain, without drama, you consent to union, and you discover that union was never absent. We will sit another moment. Just I. Let the mind do what minds do, and let the deeper awareness abide as it always abides. In this simple fidelity, grace has an entrance. In this simple fidelity, life that is not of your making begins to flow as peace, as clarity, as quiet sufficiency. Do not reach, abide. Do not add, stop at I. And know, even now, that the smallest recognition is enough, because the infinite does not measure by volume, but by truth. Now out of that stillness, let me say a thing that may save you many weary miles. Blessings cannot be inflicted upon you. If I could pour peace over your head by will, I would not do it, because it would not be peace, it would be hypnosis. Spiritual help does not descend as an external force that conquers you. It appears as the fruit of conscious receptivity. You cannot benefit from an atmosphere of prayer, from a book, from a teacher, from a meeting, unless you consciously unite yourself with it. You yourself must say within, I open, I consent, I yield. Without that, you can sit under the sun and complain of darkness with your eyes tightly closed. Now see the difference between two inner motions. Striving is a pushing. It argues. It insists. It outlines the remedy and presents it to God for signature. It says, come, do this, in this way, by this time. And in that very push, it rehearses the belief that God is absent and must be brought near. Asking, in its true sense, is an opening. It is not a plea from distance, but an acknowledgement of presence. It says, Thou art here. I am within thee. I do not know how to live myself. Let thy life live itself as me. There is no strain there, and yet there is great strength, because the government has shifted from personal will to divine government. The Gospels are very plain about this. Those who came to the Master did not purchase a blessing. They presented themselves to be opened to it. Do you believe that I am able to do this? He asked. And by that very question, he brought them to the point of receptivity. When they answered, Yea, Lord, they were not flattering him. They were consenting to union. According to your faith, be it unto you. Thy faith hath made thee whole. He did not force wholeness on villages that had no ear to hear. In one place it is written, He could do not many mighty works because of their unbelief. Not because power had diminished, but because blessings cannot be inflicted. The channel is conscious union. The mechanism is receptivity. Do not mistake receptivity for passivity. It is not laziness. It is holy activity. It is the surrender of personal outlining, the laying down of your little blueprints with their anxious measurements, and the willingness to let wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, love, peace, provision, guidance, authority, divine qualities govern your affairs in their own order. It is an inner yes that may require an outer no, to fear, to rush, to the drama of control. It is courageous because it allows God to be God where you had been trying to be Savior and engineer. And always, always, it begins at the point we have just practiced. True asking does not start with, "Thou art absent, come." True asking starts at I. It pauses in the pure I and finds there the silent I am. And out of that oneness it whispers, not as a beggar, but as a branch to its vine. Father, thou art here. Fulfill thyself. In that recognition, the prayer is already answered in principle, because you have returned to the place where answers appear. Therefore, when the need knocks, do not push. Open. Do not dictate. Consent. Stop at I. Acknowledge presence, and let the life of the vine do what only the vine can do. Now, having found the door where we stop at I and recognize presence, we must kindly and plainly face a hard kindness. For some, this will touch religion. For others, success. For still others, both at once. Hear this without defensiveness. No church can monopolize God. No ritual can manufacture presence. No membership can certify union. We have no machinery here that can grant you God. There are no memberships, and no one can join it. The only bond we acknowledge is a spiritual bond, and it is made within, at the point where I and the Father are one. Churchianity, as I sometimes call it, is not the church of the Spirit. It is the religion of forms, rules and penalties, superstition and social belonging, standing where inner communion ought to stand. And then, with the forms enthroned, men and women defend the shell while starving at the center. They keep the calendar, they observe the feast, they police the language, they measure each other's piety, and yet their nights are anxious and their days are thin. A house divided against itself cannot stand. The apostles knew this. They said, "Circumcision availeth nothing, neither uncircumcision, but a new creature." What is that but inner circumcision? Cutting away false dependence on approval, on rights, on the comfort of belonging. What is baptism but awakening within, not water on skin, but spirit upon consciousness? What is communion but conscious union, not bread and cup alone, but the living realization, I in thee and thou in me? Outward tokens, when rightly used, are signposts. But if you stop at the sign, you never reach the country. Bring it down to life as you have lived it. Many of you have been good, honest, dutiful, respectable. And still, there is an ache that prayers recited did not quiet, that attendance did not heal. Goodness without God consciousness is like a lamp unplugged, well-formed, but dark. And many of you have been successful, titles on the door, money in the account, a photograph in the paper, and still afraid. Afraid to lose what you cannot keep, afraid to be seen as you are. Afraid that tomorrow's headlines or next quarter's numbers will write the verdict of your worth. You woke to find you had climbed a stair that never touches the sky. Why? Because neither goodness nor success is the root of union. Union is the root of goodness. Union is the root of right success. Supply, peace, wisdom, guidance, these are not prizes earned, but sap that flows when the branch abides. Now let the disillusionment be holy. If no outer system can deliver inner union, then you are free. Free to stop outsourcing God to buildings, to leaders, to books, to ceremonies, to balances and applause. Attend a service if it lifts you, decline if it does not. Read if it illumines, close the cover if it darkens. Give, serve, contribute, but never as a bribe to heaven. See teachers as lamps, not suns. They can point, but they cannot see for you. Blessings cannot be inflicted. They cannot be conferred by committee. You yourself must consent to God where you are. Therefore, take every outer rite and turn it inward. Let baptism be your daily awakening at I. Let communion be your quiet resting in I am, until love, intelligence, wisdom, knowledge, peace, authority, the very vitalities of God, pass into your affairs without strain. Let circumcision be your cutting away of fear, of superstition, of the need to be certified by men. And as you do this, you will discover what was waiting the whole time. The kingdom of God is within you. Stop reaching past yourself. Stop bargaining with forms. Stop seeking certificates for what only recognition can give. Consent to be where you already are, and the vine will prove itself in fruit. Now, a sober word. The first glimpse of freedom is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of a fidelity. Freedom is hard to win. It's much harder to retain. For some, the light you felt a few minutes ago will seem to fade by morning. For others, the weak will start to crowd, the headlines will speak loudly, and the old ache will try to dress itself as urgency again. For still others, technique will creep back in, and you will find yourself reaching for the ladder you just laid down. Do not be frightened by this. Be warned, and be faithful. The most common relapse is simple. After touching stillness, the mind runs back to its toys. The old fears, the old self-improvement campaigns, the old religious bargaining. If I do my part, say this, give that, promise this, then God must do his part. That is the old contract speaking. Or it becomes a new, shinier plan. I will optimize my meditation. I will double my affirmations. I will get presence to stay. And, there you have it. The runner has started running again, and the horizon has moved with him. Scripture has placed a caution sign on this road. Lot's wife looked back. She had been led out. She turned to the old city, and in that glance backward, she fixed herself in what was passing away. Esau sold his birthright for a mess of pottage. In a moment of hunger, he traded the reality of sonship for a bowl that could never feed the soul. These are not ancient curiosities. They describe emotion you and I know. We touch union, and then, for the price of a familiar consolation, a little worry to feel responsible, a little control to feel safe, we trade recognition for habit. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Divided attention cannot abide. Now here is the subtler danger, and I beg you to see it early. The ego will turn even this teaching into another achievement. It will whisper, I must maintain presence. I must hold to I. And at once the brow tightens, the breath shortens, and strain returns under a new name. You have made a project out of what is presence by nature. You have tried to hold the vine instead of letting the vine hold you. Therefore, take this as your guardrail. Whenever you notice strain, you have already left the center. Do not add more effort to it. That compounds the distance in belief. Return, not by pushing, but by remembrance. Just silently within yourself. I. Stop there. Let the old contracts expire unsigned. Let the anxious outline fall. Presence does not need to be maintained. Presence needs to be recognized. The branch does not clutch the tree. It abides. In the instant you notice tightening, loosen. Return to I. In the instant you feel the mind bargaining, open. Return to I. In the instant you feel the lure to look back, face here. Return to I. And as you do, you will discover that fidelity is gentle, and powerfully so. You protect nothing you must carry. You protect recognition by remembering. 10 times a day, 100 times, no record kept, no merit earned. Just I and stillness. In that simplicity, wisdom, love, intelligence, peace, guidance, supply, the very sap of the vine, resume their quiet flow. Do not look back. Consent now, and now again. Now let us be as practical as a carpenter's bench. If what we have said is truth, it must show itself, not as talk, not as glow in the room, only to fade in the parking lot. By their fruits ye shall know them. For some, that fruit will be peace in the very place where anxiety has been the daily weather. For others, it will be guidance, quiet, exact, arriving without strain. For still others, it will be the harmonizing of experience, supply that appears as right opportunity and right action, without bargaining or panic. Truth, when recognized, authenticates itself by results. Do not mistake me. This is not willpower dressed up as religion. This is not a strained attempt to manifest things by mental muscle. Demonstration in this way of life is simply the natural action of divine law when the channel is unobstructed. Draw the curtains, the room is dim. Open them, the sun was always there. You do not make light, you stop denying it an entrance. When the I within is recognized as one with God, the obstruction of fear, of outlining, of separation belief gives way, and law, God's own order, operates as harmony. What then flows through the realized I? Wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, virtue, power, vitality, love, peace, purity, courage, guidance, supply, authority, creativity, order, protection, sufficiency, divine qualities, not rationed, not earned, but inherent in the vine and moving into the branch by union. The human mind does not manufacture these. It yields to them. It ceases its noisy project management of God and becomes an instrument. Then it cooperates in simple, practical ways, makes a phone call without dread, cancels a plan without guilt, writes a letter without defensiveness, rests when rest is commanded, speaks when silence would be cowardice, without fear and without self-importance. Now what does this look like at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday? A decision has been tormenting you. 2 offers, both painted with arguments and anxieties. Instead of running the figures a 30th time, you stop at I. You rest in I am until the push subsides. Out of quiet, a lean, unforced yes takes form to one path and a gentle no to the other. You cannot defend it to a debate team mind, and you need not. You act in peace. Months later, you see that the yes held appointments, friendships, provision that no spreadsheet could have forecast. That is guidance as fruit of union, not a prize for cleverness. Or a relationship is grown tight, resentments rehearsed, words sharpened, outcomes demanded. On the way to the meeting, you stop at I. Father, thou art here. You lay down the need to be vindicated. In the room, you listen. A sentence arises you had not planned. I was wrong in my tone. The atmosphere breaks. A soft answer turns away wrath. A door opens to a solution that had been blocked by pride. You did not win. Love revealed itself where you yielded. Or the body has been speaking in pain, a diagnosis written in serious letters. The first impulse is to scramble. Instead, several times a day, you return to I. Fear begins to loosen. Sleep returns. The next examination shows movement toward order. Or the same numbers remain, but terror has been drained from them, and strength appears to take the next right step. Often, even often, the symptoms themselves recede as union is consciously recognized. For life does the mending when the branch abides. This is demonstration. Not magic, not favoritism. Law fulfilled, not broken. Therefore, measure this way of living not by the sparkle of words, but by the presence of peace, by the clarity that acts without shakiness, by the quiet sufficiency that replaces bargaining. Where the fruit is absent, do not scold. Return. Stop at I. Consent to union. And let the vine prove itself in your affairs as surely as sap rises in spring. Now we make this very ordinary, because holiness that cannot be lived between breakfast and bed is not holiness at all. Abiding is not a marathon. It is a rhythm. For some, it will be 3 breaths at the sink. For others, a pause at the red light. For still others, the moment before you answer the phone. Short inward pauses, many times, quietly faithful, until they thread your day the way heartbeat threads your body. Unnoticed when healthy, missed only when abandoned. Here is a simple way. Step 1. Stop. Even in motion, there is an inner stop. Shoulders loosen, jaw unhooks. Step 2. Breathe once or twice as if letting the air breathe you. Step 3. Just silently within yourself say, I, and stop there. Step 4. Rest, even if for a single heartbeat, in the bare awareness that is before your story. Step 5. Look out again and let the next right action present itself. Do not rehearse it. Do not argue with it. Move gently. That is all. 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 3 seconds, many times a day. Distraction will come. Of course it will. The mind will start inventorying, comparing, composing speeches, bargaining with tomorrow. Do not fight it. That is just another rehearsal. Recognition is the movement. Notice, I have wandered, and return. 1. Stop there. If you return 100 times between breakfast and lunch, you have not failed 100 times. You have abided 100 times. Each return deepens trust. Each return loosens the old contract of separation. Each return is fidelity. Now, because the air is filled with teachings and trends, add discernment to your rhythm. Measure every idea, every inner voice, every impulse by demonstrable truth. Does it leave you with peace, even if it requires courage? Does it carry clarity rather than confusion, love rather than superiority, freedom from fear rather than a fresh, shiny panic? The vine does not push with hysteria. It guides with authority that is gentle and unmistakable. If an instruction arrives hanging its weight on urgency, on pride, on dread, let it wait outside. Return to I, and let the false urgency starve for lack of your belief. And now a word of exclusivity. Once this inner way has shown itself to you, do not keep shopping. Give up all others and cling to this as in marriage. Not cling with tension, cling with fidelity. There are no memberships and no one can join it. The only bond is a spiritual bond, and you make it each time you stop at I. Resist the itch to collect methods the way some collect charms. The more techniques you pile up, the less room you leave for presence to govern. One principle: I and the Father are one. One practice: return, rest, respond. In this gentle repetition, without record-keeping, without heroics, abiding becomes your way of living. Not dramatic, not rare, natural. And because it is natural, grace finds continual entrance. Guidance without strain, strength without bravado, supply without bargaining. You are not reaching, you are remembering. You are not holding God, you are consenting to be held. And that, lived simply and often, is the life of the branch that abides. Now let us close the circle, not by adding one more rung to the ladder, but by setting the ladder down. What began as effort has ripened into receptivity. What sounded like an argument has become an atmosphere. The paradox resolves itself the moment you stop reaching. When the hand unclenches, you discover that the thing you were trying to grasp is the life that is already living you. Presence does not arrive. Presence is recognized. You do not drag God across any distance. You consent to be where I am already is, here, at the center that has been the center all along. For some, you are beginning, curious, a little unsure, relieved to find a door that does not require a performance. Your next step is not a library. It is inward. 3 seconds at a time, just I, and stop there. For others, you are weary from long campaigns, religious and secular, tired of promising, bargaining, proving. Your next step is not quitting life. It is laying down the contract and consenting, again and again, to I. For still others, you are seasoned students with language and memory and some fruit already in the basket. Your next step is fidelity without fuss. Less talking about the vine, more abiding as the branch. For each, it is the same step in a different shoe. Return within, recognize, allow. Just for a second before we part, do this with me. Silently, within yourself, say I. And stop there. Let it be enough. No title, no condition, no embroidery. I. Notice the quiet that does not need to be dramatic. Notice the simple being that does not argue for its right to be. That is the place. That is the altar. That is the answer already present as presence. And remember, there is nothing here for you to join. The infinite way is not organized. There are no memberships, and no one can join it. The only bond is a spiritual bond, and it is made in the moment you stop at I and know, even faintly, I and the Father are one. Hold no one's word above your own demonstration. Measure this by fruit in your own life. Peace where fear had camped. Guidance where confusion had tied knots. Supply without bargaining. Love without pride. Where the fruit fades, do not despair. Return and consent again. Well, I see the hour, and when the Spirit starts speaking, I forget about the clock. Oh, where did the time go? Before we move, let us not rush to fill this with talk. Take one breath more in the quiet you are already in. Carry this simplicity with you, not as a task, but as recognition. You don't reach God. You consent to be where you already are. And in that consent, the day ahead is already blessed.